Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. And as we're going to have Clare Price, the CEO of Octane Growth Systems. Claire is going to walk us through her amazing presentation. So thank you, Claire, for being here today. Clare Price is the founder and CEO of Octane Growth Systems, the Raleigh, North Carolina-based systems, process, and tools company that delivers B2B marketing strategies and execution for scalable 10x growth. Her latest book, Smart Marketing Execution, gives scaling companies the knowledge and tools they need to move from frantic marketing activity to sustainable marketing operations so that they can accelerate their profit, performance, and productivity. Claire, thank you for joining us, and please take it away.
Thank you, Rick, so much for this opportunity. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this late afternoon, and I hope that you will find the session to be interesting and thought-provoking as we walk through the 7 steps to selling strategic services. Frank Denning was miserable, frustrated, and unclear as to what was going to happen next. He stared out of his office window, trying to figure out how he was going to take his company forward. They had survived the pandemic. They'd come through it just fine, but he had not been able to grow revenue and profits for several years. He simply did not know what to do. He tried everything. He tried hiring and firing a couple of sales directors. He tried moving people into different seats and signing up for all the different marketing and sales programs and things that were offered to him. Nothing moved the needle. He was at the end of his rope. Flat as a pancake, he told me. Flat as a pancake for 3 years. I don't know what we're going to do next. Then he eyeballed me and said, I've hired consultants before, and they haven't done anything for me. They've asked me a lot of questions. They've taken up a lot of my time, but they've never given me any good answers. How are you going to be different? I'm just wondering if all of you in the audience have had a similar experience working with business owners like Frank. We're going to go back to Frank's story later, but Frank and Frank's type of business, I think, is the reason that many of us chose to become fractionals, to really help what I call mid-market companies that are the lifeblood of our economy and the ones that I think, frankly, need the most help in so many of the services that we as fractionals provide. So that's
Claire,
why we're...
Can I just add something?
Of course.
That was the most brilliant opening I've seen to a presentation ever.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Love it. Thank you. What an idea you just gave us.
Thank you very much. And on that note, we'll dive into the presentation here. I'm going to talk about 7 things. First of all, understanding the mid-market business owner mindset. I'm going to frame that by saying that when I'm saying this, and people's parameters vary, but for my company and for people I work with, we look at the $5 to $50 million market as being the small to mid-market business owner. These are companies typically that have grown organically to a certain level and have not been able to move past that, again, as the Frank story I illustrated. So I'm going to spend time in that area. I think some of the things I'm going to talk about equally apply to larger corporate and enterprise companies and businesses, but that's where we're going to focus. And we're going to talk about how you niche your ICP, your ideal client profile for this market specifically, and your unique value proposition, again, for this market specifically, and how you build a client attraction engine using thought leadership and what I call a twist on the buyer's journey to do that. We're going to talk about how you establish trust with a market and a business owner that is sometimes very skeptical, as I mentioned, of fractionals, of people who come in, as consultants. talk a little bit about overcoming some of those objections, and then finally, just a quick statement on creating winning engagements. So let's start with the mid-market mindset. First of all, the mid-market mindset, these are DIYers. These are do-it-yourselfers. Most of them have grown their business by grinding it out by what I call the owner-operator scramble for years. And they are used to figuring out how to get it done by themselves. I'll give you a great illustration. So I have talked to one client prospect as a fractional CMO, which is the role that I typically play in these organizations. And we went through a full marketing audit. One of the things I brought up was the fact that they needed to change their website. First response out of his mouth was, "My nephew does websites. I'll get him to do it." So that's the do-it-yourself mentality. He didn't, by the way, in the end decide to have his nephew do it, but that's another story for another time. The second thing is the tyranny of the urgent. Everything is urgent to this market. They have limited resources, they have limited time, they have tons of fires to put out. And so short-term thinking, short-term planning, short-term focus is really one of the obstacles that they face, and you as a fractional face in helping them to understand why they need to plan, why they need to do some research, why they need to develop a strategy. Also, they're very results driven. Now, clearly, all companies are results driven. I think this market is more specifically, particularly results driven because it's money coming out of their pocket. Yes, the CMO or the CFO of a large corporation is results driven. They want to see results, and they may have, a lot riding on that, including possibly stock options. But in this case, it literally comes out of the business owner's pocket. That's why they are also very time and budget sensitive, and why they are also really deciders. They're going to make usually a fairly quick decision. So often when you present a proposal to a business owner in this space, you may not hear from them for a while. You may think, well, they haven't made up their mind yet, and check back in and say, well, how's it going? Can I help you? What more can I tell you? Likely or not, they're ghosting you. They've already made the decision, and the answer is probably no, or I can't afford it and I don't want to tell you that. But they are definite quick deciders, and that's to our benefit as fractionals if we know how to manage that expectation correctly. So that's what the mid-market mindset really looks like in my experience. So given that as the mindset, what I'd love to do is talk about how you niche your ideal client profile for this market. I think as fractionals running your own business, and I know we have some other marketing people on this call, the ideal client profile, how critical that is. And surely you've worked on it, and surely you've helped other clients work on it. But let's just play with it a little bit here and maybe look at it from a slightly different angle. And that is who your ideal client profile is in this market. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is not to just say the typical demographics. Well, they're in this industry, they're this size business, they have this many employees, they are in this geographic space. Take it one step further and think about the characteristics that define the problems and pain points that this group may have. For example, I work a lot with manufacturers. That's one of my core focus groups as a fractional CMO. A couple of things plaguing manufacturers, especially in this last 10 years, post-COVID in particular, supply chain issues. Also, cost of product fulfillment. So you can come in, for example, as a marketing person, and you can say, I can help you grow. Here's how I'll help you grow. These are the plans that we can put in place. That can sometimes be a problem for that business owner if they don't at the same time have a plan for how they're going to fulfill that new business. supply chain issues, people issues, another big one. So think about the characteristics that are among that industry that can help define some of the issues that you're going to face as you look to work with them. Second is market stage. Companies are going to need different, ICP is going to look different at different stages of growth. So a startup is going to have one focus for their ICP. They're going to be fast moving. They're going to want to get it done. They're going to want to get that MVP out there on the market as fast as possible. You might also be working with somebody who's at that established stage and they've been there a while and new competitors are coming in, and how are they going to navigate new competitors with new different product offerings, service offerings, different price points. That would be another market stage. And then of course there are those of you who may specialize in exit planning for those companies, so more at the end of life, succession planning. So don't just note those as characteristics or things that you look for. Build them into your ideal client profile. So as you are talking to a potential prospect, or even more importantly, some of your power partners, which I know are in this group, have those key characteristics so that you can be very, very clear. The last is client characteristics. And by client characteristics, I mean, how do your best clients, your ideal clients, like to work? Do they like to move fast? Do they like to take a long time to make a decision? Do they like to consider different viewpoints? How they work, what their style is, what their characteristics as a client in the engagement are also things that you can actually bundle into your ICP. So that's number one. That's the who. Then there's the why. Why do these business owner, why does this prospect want to work with you or want to buy what you have to offer? And most importantly, why do they want to buy that service from you, uniquely from you? Those are the things to really, again, bundle into that more extended, more filled out ICP. We look at three things here within Octane. We look at needs, wants, and desires. Needs for us are pain points. We don't use the word pain points because once you solve someone's pain, sometimes they just disappear. But if you fulfill their need, but also you're also looking out to what do they want, like what do they want to do a year or two from now, you have a longer term engagement. And then look at what they really desire. What do they desire in 10 years? What do they desire at the end of their life of the business, their exit? Have they thought about that? So needs, wants, and desires all are critical, not just pain points, but beyond the pain point. And then values. How well do their values align with yours? That's what's going to make them a great client for you and you a great fractional for them. So understanding their values and your values, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, is very important to, again, bundle into your ICP. And then finally, motivation. What motivates them to stay in business? Why are they still in business? Why didn't they close the door when COVID came, for example? What is motivating them to keep going? Is it their family? Is it the identity they have wrapped up in the business? Is it what they want to leave as a legacy to the community or to their world at large? And how well do their motivations line up with your motivations, your passions, your interest, your way of finding your identity in the world? All of that are all things that a typical ICP doesn't take into consideration, but really, really make that ICP very tight and very focused for you. And then the third thing is, where are they? And I'm going to talk about a couple of things here. The first is, find them through their shared interests. What do your potential prospects have in common in terms of what they like to do, or how they like to run their business, or how they communicate with each other? All of those kinds of shared interests are ways that you can zero in on a great potential client. The second is watering holes. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. But a watering hole is where they hang out. Where do they go to socialize, to get new information, to hang out with their peers? Who in those watering holes influences the decision they make? Watering holes is where you want to identify and where you want to hang out. And then finally, what are their social connections? And of course, social connections, we think of social media, but beyond that, what other social connections do they have? Do they have a CEO group that they belong to, community group, association, the church, any of those things that are really social connections for them. We had one client, they were a SaaS client, and one of the things that we did as we were looking at their social connections is and doing an audit of where their ideal clients were hanging out. We found out that while they were spending thousands upon thousands of dollars a month on social media and on digital marketing, their clients were not looking for their vendors in that space. Instead, their clients who were in the K-12 education space were looking for their clients at trade shows. So we shifted their budget to trade shows from social media and digital advertising and increased their revenues from 2 million to 7 million in 2.5 years. So that is a real critical thing to have as part of your ICP. So that is the second step, niching your ICP. And then closely following that is doubling down on your UVP. Now, when I say double down, what I mean is really focus on the value that you are providing to this market, because they are more value cost sensitive. In my personal experience, I've been living and breathing this market for about the last 15 years.
Claire, sorry to interrupt. Can you what is a UVP, just for those?
Oh, unique value proposition. And thank you, Rick. Yeah, so your unique value proposition is how you position yourself in the market. And that is the following three things. What is unique about you that they can only get from you? What is the value that you bring to them? And you must clearly show, very, very, very clearly show in this market with numbers, with case studies, with real results, how the value you're bringing them outweighs the cost. And then finally, customize the solution tailored for their specific business. And I will mention this again and again. When I say customized solution, I don't mean just customized for the industry. I don't mean just customized for that type of business. I mean customized for that specific business and business owner, if possible. Because again, these business owners, this is their baby. They live and breathe and sleep this business all day long. When you can show a customized solution that says it is for your company, not just your industry or the general market space, you go a long way to showing them your unique value proposition. The three keys that I found to refining your unique value proposition are the following. The first is take a stand with your brand. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is be very clear on your own brand values. And at Octane, we define brand values as the values you want to put in the market so your client can connect to you effectively through your message and through your value. So we're very clear, we're not talking about belief system values. We're not talking about cultural values unless they are something that you want to take a stand on in your market for your clients. We're talking about those specific values that relate directly to what your client is looking for, that you've identified through your unique value proposition. The second thing, the second key to refining your value proposition is knowing your why. And for that, I don't think there's any better place to go than using the famous statement from Simon Sinek's book, Find Your Why. And that is, my company exists to do what? So that my clients get product or service so that they are able to result. So my company exists to offer product or service so that my clients get the product or service or value that they then get from that. They can clearly see a tangible result. So I kind of butchered that at the end, but look it up, or I can send you the worksheet that we have on that. So take a stand with your brand and be very, very clear. Take a real stand, because that is your uniqueness. And if you don't think that you can find uniqueness because maybe there are 100 fractional CFOs out there, there's 100 CMOs or COOs out there, you can take a stand with your brand and with your uniqueness. And the reason I know that is because when I started my consulting career, my first niche market was the real estate market. And I don't mean necessarily the brokers. I mean individual realtors, and finding a way to help them develop their personal brand. And you can imagine that that was quite an interesting way to go, because they were all selling the same inventory. They all had the same rules and regulations that they had to face. And for most of my clients, they were in the same general geographic area. So how did we find uniquenesses? Sometimes we found it with shared interest. For example, one of my very big, very high-level real estate clients was a golfer. And I said, we have to go out with the whole golf message. We took pictures at the golf course. Her brochure was all about golfing and her golfing. And she was like, well, I don't want to exclude people. And I said, well, who do you most want to work with? And she said, I want to work with the golfing community. I said, okay, that's where we're going. So everything that we did focused on that particular interest of hers. I had another client in the real estate industry that was an antique clock collector. So we built an entire personal brand for her around the antique clock collection and the fact that your time was more important. Her client's time. She would say, your time is more important to me, and I really know time. So just a couple of examples of how you can really, be unique with your brand. And another way to find that uniqueness is to share your origin story. You chose to become a fractional for a reason. What drove you? What are the life experiences that you've had over the last 10, 15, 20 years that have brought you to this place? My publisher, Indie Books, calls that a mess to success story. I started here. I went through a lot of different changes and evolutions, and I got to where I am today. And sharing that story and building that into your unique value proposition, again, is a way to be transparent, to be authentic, and to be unique in front of these clients. So that is step 3 to build your unique value proposition. So let's take a look at step 4, which is how do we build a client attraction engine? Now, there are a million ways to do this, and there are a lot of different ways to go. I'm going to focus on a few things that from the marketing world I have found to be very effective in getting out there and attracting clients to Octane, to my business. The first is with thought leadership. And here are some of the ways that you can think about thought leadership. The first one is I really highly, highly recommend that you think about doing a book. And if that's making you go, oh my gosh, where am I going to fit that into my time? I don't barely have time to breathe. I get it. Took me 2 years to write my book, so I definitely get it. But I want to share with you that you don't have to do a traditional published book that is done by a traditional publisher that's 200 pages and takes forever to do. You can do an ebook. You can do a book style white paper. You can do a collection of your blog posts and have that designed in a book style so that you are offering something to your client that shows that you have trusted authority in the marketplace. I do have a colleague, his name is Stuart Bell. He has a great program called 90-Minute Books that can help anybody do a book very quickly in a couple of months, and they're very high quality. So that's the first suggestion. The second suggestion is to carefully invest in your social media to the extent that you can truly develop thought leadership in one space. Personally, I've not found it effective to put out a ton of content all over, 5 different social media channels and hope that it hits somebody. What I've found to be effective is to do a couple of things. One is to spend most of my social media time connecting directly with people that I want to talk to and I want to build a relationship with. Not just send out 100 LinkedIn connection requests, for example, and try to figure out what's going on there. But maybe choose 3 or 4 people a week and connect with them and start having real conversations. I've found that to be very effective. And in fact, in two cases over the last 3 years, it's landed me 2 very good clients. One of them, for example, we just signed and we're just starting to work with. The way that we connected was he put out a message about his new software that he was developing. He is developing an ERP software solution for the construction industry. I have a lot of experience in the construction industry, so I just simply sent him a message saying, hey, I'd like to hear more about your system. First message I got back from him was, I don't have any money for marketing. I said, I'm really not trying to sell you marketing services. I work with people in the construction industry, and I would really like to know what you're doing. We ended up having a demo, didn't really follow up with anything. 4 months later, which was last month, he came back and said, hey, I'm ready for marketing, and I really liked the ideas that you gave me when I did my demo. Do you want to have a conversation about it? And we started working with him. So that kind of social media for me is really, really high value. The other high value thing that I've found effective is to join a LinkedIn or start a LinkedIn pod, where a group of you get together once a week at a certain time and agree that you are going to post, share, and comment at the same time. That amplifies your reach for the LinkedIn algorithm if you're all doing it that first hour astronomically. The third thing that I would recommend, I think we're all already doing that because we're part of this group, is we want to establish power partners. And we want to establish power partner relationships and stay in touch with them. I try to stay in touch with at least 10 power partners on a monthly basis that I'm just maybe checking in with. How's your week going? What's happening with you? Just to kind of, like you do with friends, just check in and see what's happening. The fourth thing I would recommend is small group seminars. These are very small groups where you personally invite the people to the seminar. It's maybe 6, 8 people so that you can dive deep, have a great connection, even start a small community perhaps, but really, really build relationships in that seminar, not just do a presentation. I find the best way to do that is through small group Q&As, where you pick a topic, could be this topic, you talk on it for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then you open it up to general discussion and really keep the conversation flowing that way. The fifth thing I would recommend is community leadership. And I'm just going to, at this point, I can turn it over to Rick because that's what he's doing with our group here. He started a community. He's leading the community. He's providing value to the community. there may be a small community, either live or virtually, that you could lead in your geographic area or in your area of interest. The next one is speaking, and I put OPA here. That stands for other people's audiences. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. Rick invited me to speak to you all as his audience. Speaking to other people's audiences is one of the best ways to get your thought leadership and your brand out into the market where there are people that are interested in doing and working with you. And the last, I said I'd talk about it again, watering holes. Where do your people hang out? Where do they go for information? There's a great book called The Widest Net. And the author's name is blanking on me. I can follow up with that for everybody. But it talks exactly about how to identify and how to come into and how to become part of a watering hole where your clients hang out. So those are some thought leadership ideas for you. I just have one other thought on the client attraction engine, a little twist on the buyer's journey. To me, this is very important for the mid-market. And when I say twist on the buyer's journey, for those of you who are marketers, the buyer's journey is identify, find them at the point of interest, find them at the point of concern, the point of research, all of that. What I'm suggesting to you, the new twist is, even after you've signed them, or even in an initial discussion with them, show them exactly how you're going to take them from point A, in our case, discover, to implementation. For the mid-market, knowing exactly what is going to happen next, how much time it's going to take, how much money it's going to take at each step of the way is critical to gaining their confidence and getting them excited about working with you. So I would suggest developing for yourselves a buyer's journey that really talks about your working methodology, the way that you're going to develop and run the engagement with them. The fifth thing that we're going to talk about is establishing trust, or as Rick likes to call it, transfer of trust. And you do that by, of course, your experience. You do that by your thought leadership that you may have established in a watering hole or in social media. You do that by your social proof that you offer, whether that's a case study or a reference account or came in by referral. But there's one more way to establish trust in this market that I think, again, because of who these business owners are, is really critical, and that is empathy. Showing them that you can walk a mile in their shoes, showing them that you understand the day-to-day life of that business owner that you're talking to. And the way to do that, we're going to go back to the mindset, is to really address a lot of these mindset issues, from do-it-yourselfer to being the ultimate decider. And I'd just like to walk you quickly through a few of these ways to address this mid-market mindset. The first is addressing the urgency. Addressing the urgency, for me, and how I've addressed it, is to absolutely note that it's there, note that they want to do everything fast, note that they want to get it done as quickly as possible, and kind of turn that a little bit on its head. Because a lot of times the urgency is what has caused their, again, in my case as a fractional CMO, their marketing efforts to fail. Because they go out and they go, I need to get this done, and they just start launching campaigns all over the place. So addressing the urgency, to me, is two parts. Showing them the dark side, which I've got on the next slide, which is the penalty for being urgent. And then secondly, to show them how you are going to move as quickly as you can, and specifically each step of the way, going back to that new twist on the buyer's journey. The second, I've already mentioned this, I won't spend a lot more time on it, to really customize that solution for their specific business at the specific point in time that they are wanting to work with you. And the third, and I'm going to talk about this in step 7, is how you collaborate with this market. Fourth, mitigate the risk. These are people who are, again, entrepreneurs, small businesses. They may be, out there on the spear point, but they still want to know that what you do with them is going to be more secure and not as risky as something they might do on their own. And showing them either through examples or stories how you're going to help them mitigate the risk of working with you, again, is another big step forward. The next one is follow the money. Show them specifically how you are going to use their budget. Show them specifically what the opportunity cost is for working with you. As specific as you can get on the numbers, and some of us can be more specific than others. What we've done at Octane is we've actually set up a set of benchmarks that we use with a client in advance, so that we can give them maybe not an exact, but at least an estimate of the return on investment that they're likely to make with each of the different campaigns we might launch with them. The other one is show them the dark side. And by that, I mean educate them on lost opportunity cost. Lost opportunity cost, for those who may or not be familiar with the term, is the opportunity that you lost because you took a different opportunity. So for example, you have 2 opportunities in front of you. One of them may net you an additional $100,000 to the bottom line. The other one may net you $250,000 to the bottom line. If you only look at the first opportunity and don't even consider the second, you've potentially lost that $250,000 opportunity. So being able to show them 2 or 3 opportunities and the difference in the potential reward, the difference in the cost, is, I think, a very powerful story for this group. The other thing I would recommend is really zeroing in on how what you do with them is going to help them retain and engage their top talent. Mid-market companies really struggle with maintaining their employees and also finding the employees in a lot of cases that they need. The other thing too in the mid-market that I think is different from the larger corporate enterprise market is a lot of times these employees are very much considered family in these smaller businesses. They have worked with the business for 10 and 20 years. Families have celebrated together. So these employees are really, really part of the equation. So where you can show them how what you're doing for them is going to help them retain and engage these employees, critical. And then the final point on working with the mindset is showing them the difference between growing and scaling. Mid-market companies, especially those that are in really fast-moving mode, or trying to really owner-operator scramble, get it done, are often just focused on how fast are we growing, without focusing on what is the true margin that we're making. We're growing fast, but are we really becoming more profitable? Are we getting bigger? Can we do more because our margins have increased? So that's another, I think, powerful argument for this group. The 6th area, overcoming objections. I've talked a little bit about a lot of these, but being able to show measurable outcomes. We actually have a predictive growth formula that we use at Octane to show the outcome of a lot of the programs that we are launching for them. Time and budget efficiencies, not just how are you going to spend their budget and that you're going to give them value back, but how are you going to make them more effective and efficient with the time and budget they have? Because again, particularly here, every business owner that I've ever worked with asks me the question, how much time is this going to take? And they don't necessarily mean how many months or weeks it's going to take to get the project done. They mean how much of my personal time, how much time are you going to need from me and my team? So being very clear on whatever the time it takes with you is going to yield higher efficiencies is a great story. And then with the fear of change, again, that new twist on the buyer's journey, showing them a step-by-step path forward. And then here, in a nod to Rick, of course, the transfer of trust, really critical. And I know Rick's talked a lot about this, so I think we're all familiar with it right now, but that's a huge way to overcome negative past experiences, which a lot of these business owners have had with consultants or with fractionals. So just want to leave time for questions. So I'm going to talk about one final thing, what we do to create winning engagements at Octane. We use what we call a client collaboration model in working with our clients. And what I mean by that is we work side by side with our clients to develop the blueprints that we create for strategy, the execution that we do for their campaigns and programs, and the automation that we put in place for them so that they continue to have a sustainable outcome. And when we talk about client collaboration, we look at working with our clients in 3 different ways. The first is we will ask them to do pre-work. Well, the Octane system is set up with a lot of tools. On a Canvas model. It literally is strategy by the numbers. For each number in our system, there's a set of tools. We ask the client to do that work with us in 3 ways. One is the client does the work first. We hand them off an assessment or we hand them off a scorecard, and we ask them to give us back the information, and then we review it together. That's the first way. The second way is we do it live in real time. I have a lot of business owners that I've done that with. For example, at one point I had a printer client, and I asked him to do the pre-work, and he wasn't having it. He was not doing the pre-work. So I said, okay, I understand. You're too busy to fill out assessments, and you're too busy to do scorecards. I get it. So just give me a data dump. Just, whatever you're thinking of, put it in an email, send it over. I'll work with what I get. So I would get these emails at 2:00 in the morning that were the total stream of consciousness. I mean, we're talking 4 pages and maybe 1 period in the entire thing, right? So I said, this is really not going to work. I am not going to be able to get what I need from that particular approach. So what we did was we sat down every Friday for 2 hours at Panera Bread, had lunch, and did the work in real time. And that was hugely successful for us. So that's the second way. You can have them do the work first and review it with them. I know a lot of us do that. Secondly, live in real time. The third way is for you to do the work first with what you've learned in your discovery and the research that you've done, and then review it with them. And I had one IT client that we were successful in doing that. And they were actually a funny story too, because again, they were not answering questions. So what we did with them was I said, okay, I know you don't want to write stuff down. That's fine. I get it. So let's do this. Take the questions, put them, read them and talk into your phone the answers. And I will get them transcribed and we will go from there. And that was how we were able to do that third way, where I got some of the data from them and used some of the data in discovery and was able to successfully have a winning engagement there. So those are our 7 things. The first one is really understanding the mindset. The second is to niche your ICP. The third is to double down on your unique value proposition. The fourth is to build a client attraction engine. 2 things to focus on: thought leadership and a new twist on the buyer's journey, to establish trust, to overcome objections as they come up, and to create winning client engagements. And with that, I'd love to take questions.
Great. So it's open to the floor. So if you have a question, please just go ahead.
And I'm going to stop sharing because I can't see anybody.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Claire. It's Sarah. I do have a
Hi.
question. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
You talked towards the end about your predictable model that you have.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, I'm kind of new going into this fractional world. So how long did that take you to put together, and kind of like, what are the components of that? How do you use that? Because I think that's great, but I don't have that.
Yeah, it's actually a formula, and I'm happy to share with you. It's a very quick formula. To actually develop it and test it and refine it, probably a couple of years.
Yeah.
But it is basically can't remember now. It's a growth value that you get from the revenue divided by the cost. Not remembering it.
That's okay. No, that's okay. I just didn't know if it was from like you were literally leveraging data from previous clients that you've pulled into that, or if it's a standard formula.
We absolutely we pull the data in four places. We pull the data from goal of client goal, how we get to the revenue number, client goal, what our strategic agency partner has done with similar programs with similar clients in the past, what any industry benchmarking we can find, and we're building a database on that. And then, so those are the three areas that we look at.
Okay. Thanks.
And I'm happy to share it with you, Sarah, or anyone else who's interested.
Yeah, I would love to see it if you're
okay. Absolutely.
Okay. That's great. Are there any other questions?
Hi, this is Dan. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Claire, that was awesome. I can't thank you enough for the presentation. I just met Rick. I think we chatted, Rick, but I just recently joined a group, KPI, Key Performance Integrators. And one of the reasons I did was because, I've been a serial COO of a number of different companies, but I joined Jeff, and the things you highlighted were some of the reasons. The fact that if you look at our site, we have a vision, we have some of the things that you've defined. But my real message to anybody, whether you're doing it with a group or you're doing it alone, is all the key points I want to reiterate. Knowing what we're delivering and why and how and who we connect with and where we can add value. And then coming back to your thing, I just recently mentioned to someone, I gave someone else an opportunity because I said, we're not the right fit. In our case, we mentioned we're not a manufacturing. We don't have that type of thing. I think the power of what we're all doing now, and somebody said it very nicely, said you could walk from New Jersey to Boston on everybody's heads that's doing fractional stuff right now. So what does that mean to all of us?
And I'm going to take credit for that. I believe.
Oh, was that you, Rick? Oh, did I? Okay, thank you.
I like it. That sounds like you, Rick. It really does. Yeah.
It resonated with me, Rick, because it reinforces the idea that we all have to really hone in on all the things you talked about, the ICP and all those things. So, as I said, I thought it was wonderful. I think your messaging there, and I think everything you're doing. I was nodding because I was thinking about gentleman I work with, Jeff, who founded our company, and all the things he built along the way, which was right in alignment, and we can continue to scale and grow based on it.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Claire.
I would just like to add, it's less of a question, and I think it's more of an observation that there's a lot of us in this world, to Dan's point, that you could walk from Long Island, New York, where I am, right? We can walk across the country on the shoulders of fractionals. We're all fractionals and never touch the ground. But we stand alone together, right? There are resources, there are people that are helpful to not only help you grow your business or what are you struggling with, but those same people could become your power partners, to Claire's point. So the motion that all these things create more motion is what I've found. And I think that Claire has eloquently laid it out. And I'm going to say it again, the opening of Claire's presentation with that story, right? I got to tell you, I was captivated.
Thank you. I didn't tell you the end that we did. Frank and I.
You said you were going to come back to it. I didn't want to call
I
you out.
realized I didn't. I realized I didn't. Yeah, well, I did end up working with Frank for a couple of years. He's in my book, and we were able to increase his revenues 24% in 18 months. So he was pretty happy about that. But it was all around the fact that a lot of these guys don't have strategy and won't take the time. That's why putting this presentation together, educating them on how important it is to have strategy in a way that they can understand, because it really fits with their day-to-day life and their mindset. That's what's been successful for us.
Great.
So Caleb has a question. What's your perspective on taking clients who don't necessarily fit your ICP? Do you ever turn down potential clients? Two different questions. I would say take a client who doesn't necessarily fit your ICP if they are someone that you know you can help and you know that you can work with them effectively. The clients I've turned down are clients that I, after years of being in this market, could tell they were going to be the client from hell. So I didn't want to work with them. Those are the ones that I turned down. Or they clearly, I can't help them. There's something they need that is just not in my wheelhouse. And then I go out to my power partners and find the person who can do that for them. And that's why the power partners are so important. And that's why this group, which has tons of power partners is so important.
I would add, Caleb, we had a conversation recently, you and I. In the beginning of your business, you need at-bats to helps you identify those ICPs and UCPs and all those kinds of things. And in the beginning, when I started this business in 2010, the definition of a good client was anyone whose money was green and they were willing to give it to us on a reasonably timely basis, right? But that gives you those at-bats give you a chance to learn. And as you progress, then you can get you and your ICP and UVPs develop, you can get more specific.
I would love to, if you don't mind, just kind of go around the room, Rick, and ask everybody, it's a small group, what was your maybe aha moment or takeaway from what we discussed? And I'll start with Caleb. He's on mute. So, how about Dan?
As I said, I think I said it in my thing, the aha moment was for me is that the things we're doing are in alignment with somebody like you had been doing it for a while. Jeff's been doing it about 3 years. Myself, literally, I just moved into this fractional space and I'm doing lots of different things. And I am doing a lot of business development. So the things the notes I took and the things I took from it were reinforcing some of the things I already knew, but hearing it from you says, okay, stay within your lane, stay within the things that you think. I did want to reiterate, I won't use the language, but as we get older, we do have some rules around who we work with and why. So I won't use the different things, but it's definitely one of the things about being fractional and doing that, choosing who you work with. Though as you're growing, you have to make some choices. But I recently had a situation where I looked at my colleague, Jeff, and said, I do not want to deal with that person. You may deal with them if you want, but I'm done because it's just not something I want to do. So I think that's the power of what we can do. And I think we got all opportunity to do something.
Yeah. Sarah, what was one of your takeaways?
Yeah, well, this was fun to listen to because you and I had a conversation a week ago. So, and I had talked about as a marketer, right? It's oftentimes more difficult to market yourself than it is to go and market somebody else's business. So it was just all of your points about how to go and find your ICP and what you should be doing. The thought leadership reinforced that, okay, I need to keep doing this. The book thing makes total sense, makes me itch a little bit, but totally makes sense. I understand there's just a lot of credibility behind that. And then again, just the predictive model. I always think that having these data sets and these models, these frameworks available to be able to put in front of somebody helps with credibility too. So really trying to figure out how to hone in on that and have a library for that.
Oh, we lost Dana. I was going to ask her, and Sarah, if you want to set up some time, I can walk you through the models.
Okay.
Minutes.
Thank you.
Caleb.
Yeah, sorry, I've been kind of bopping between computers. My other one doesn't have a mic on it, but my key takeaway, I would say, it was super helpful to see the way that you laid out those measurables, I think, for clients, and especially me coming from the HR side, it's kind of it's almost in alignment with the humanities, where a lot of it seems wishy-washy, but being able to put some numbers to the services that are provided, and to Rick's point, having some at-bats where you're able to, lay out this is what happened in all these projects, and assign some numbers to things that are kind of fundamentally qualitative in nature. I think that really helped me kind of follow through with the clients and make that connection where so it doesn't seem just like making promises. It's more of like there's some substance to this.
Yeah, totally. Great. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. Rick, again, thank you so much for offering me the opportunity to talk to everybody. And I'll send it back to you.
So Claire, just how can people get in touch with you?
My website or my email address is Clare, CLARE at, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, great. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Appreciate it. Thank you, Claire. That was awesome. Say hi to Frank for us, because I want to meet him. He seems like a great guy. Very open to your ideas, which is wonderful. And everyone have a great day, and have a great weekend.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone.